I don't have too much on a couple topics, but one thing is that we're going to be changing around some podcast stuff.
We are, yeah.
So
this is the 100th podcast. We've been doing it almost every week. I mean, sometimes we miss, but like we did like a couple, and then they had a huge break, and then we started doing it once a week, and then we got like started doing it live. So it's ever been changing, but it's been a decent amount of the way we're doing it now. But yeah, we wanted to change up the format a little bit and maybe have more like specific things to talk about rather than just like a general.
Well, one thing that we have trouble with, I feel like in this podcast, is lots of people want to know our opinions on certain topics. And sometimes we don't want to go into those topics too specifically because either A, viewers watching, we don't want to spoil them on a kind of variety podcast.
Yeah.
Or B, we don't want to spoil each other on like whatever, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you guys can't talk about Breaking Bad without spoiling me, Rick, and Calvin on Breaking Bad. So that's not a topic that usually comes up.
So what you're saying is that there's going to be an exclusive wrestling podcast from Lionel.
Because that's what we need. Because we don't want spoiled on that.
With Rick only. Just talking about,
just Rick.
Just talking about the greats.
You're just mumbling like a, hey, can I have that cup too?
The Bulbasaur one.
But yeah, so as far as what we're going to be doing, one thing is going to be alternating variety blind wave podcasts.
Yep.
So we're still going to try to do the kind of variety stream of podcasts and stuff like we usually have done, where it's going to be kind of just loose topics about things that we haven't talked about.
Or our lives and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Stories when they happen.
As of right now, the plan is that we'll probably try to alternate those every other week. And in between those weeks, one podcast that we're going to try to do is going to be a gaming-specific podcast.
Yep.
Which will probably focus more so on me, Shane, and Rick. And then Eric and Calvin will be jumping into that different times whenever the topics that we're talking about. And we're going to try to make sure we have a list of topics and things that are going to be talked about ahead of time so people know and can, be there to ask questions or know what the topic's going to be about.
Because it comes up on the podcast a lot, but I don't have a whole lot to say about video games. You know, I mean, I love video games, but I'm not like I'm certainly don't feel qualified to like.
You're not an aficionado.
It would be like if we were talking about collections of Star Wars figures, and I'd be like, well, I don't really know a whole lot, but you can ramble on about like, well, there's this, and this is where you got this, and I'm like, I don't know any of this. I have nothing to contribute. So yeah, so as far as like that, one of our big ones is we wanted to be able to have a gaming podcast. Usually it's kind of tossed in a little bit. It's like, hey, what do you think of this? There's always gaming news going on or new games that we're playing and whatnot. So we'll be discussing some of that. I don't know if it's going to be specific games necessarily. If it's going to be a little bit more about news, we'll kind of find how we want to do that one as we go a little bit. But I do have some topics I want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be focused in the genre, but not necessarily be like confined to a certain format necessarily.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, there's some topics I want to talk about in that for sure. And I know Shane has some things that he wants to talk about too. And we may have a few times like some of our favorites, like top 10s or something in the middle of that as well. So, and then the other one that's going to be alternating. So I think kind of the idea would be like we have like a variety podcast, then we have our gaming podcast, and then we have a variety podcast, and then we'll have the Star Wars podcast.
The Star Wars podcast. Ooh.
So
we've been talking about that for a long time.
We've been discussing it for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff, like that'll probably be mainly me, Eric, and Shane.
Yep.
Just because there's some things that Rick and Calvin aren't caught up.
Basically, me and Aaron are awesome.
Exactly.
That's
Basically,
exactly me and Aaron are awesome.
So like,
they
may jump in on certain topics, but sometimes something happens and we want to discuss how that relates to something else. And
Clone Wars, Rebels.
We can't do it,
The greater canon that maybe Calvin hasn't seen all of it yet, but because we're artificially making him not watch it all.
Yeah, for you guys, though. Yeah.
So some of the things we may have in there may be like some discussions about like Jedi Fallen Order, which... I just beat Jedi Fallen Order yesterday, and then Shane's still working on it right now. So we may discuss that.
I'm replaying Jedi Fallen Order because I was ready for this podcast. Like, I've been wanting to talk about it for a while with you guys, but now we can actually do it and talk with it with you guys, with the audience here on Twitch.
And then we'll be able to take questions and stuff in it. We can talk about Mandalorian, we can talk about Rise of Skywalker if we need to, but also there's no chance of spoiling like Rick and Calvin or something. People that are coming to it hopefully will know it's a Star Wars podcast and won't be spoiled on topics we're talking about while doing it. And then we may also end up tossing in like some book kind of conversations.
Book reviews.
So if we have
I haven't read like any.
Yeah, so like
we could. New canon.
I've read one, but I absolutely think we need to do some old canon, like essential, like Shaz's Empire.
No, we can do that. I'd like to focus on the new just for now, but going back to classics and stuff. I mean, we're never going to run out of topics because I could literally talk about it all day, every day.
For you, reading the Revenge of the Sith book, Aaron, is like a must, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of those are going to be really cool. I think the first podcasts are looking like they're going to be revolving around the topics of Jedi Fallen Order, Mandalorian, Rise of Skywalker, just because those are topics we can discuss that we haven't been able to dive into as much as we wanted to. But then we may be notifying everyone, like, okay, the next one's going to be the Ahsoka novel or something.
Yeah.
And then most likely to be one a month based on the 4-week kind of switch around. So then you get like a month to be able to read that book, and then we'll be discussing it. We'll take in some questions. We can discuss like how it's affected, canon or lore, or how it, connects with something else that, maybe people didn't think about or realize, or any of that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I'm moving. It's something we've been talking about for, like, no kidding, like since the beginning of Blind Wave. Like when we started talking, like, do the podcast. Like, well, let's do like a Star Wars podcast.
We had a lot of resistance from Calvin, and then even more from.
You had a lot of Star Wars resistance.
He was worried about us talking about the prequels and stuff, so he's like, well, I don't know.
And that would be, it also would be separate from like our commentaries. Like eventually we'll get to the prequels and Solo and that, but we're not gonna do commentaries on this podcast. So
commentaries, no. That'd be a separate thing.
So. Lost Stars, oh my God.
But as of right now, I mean, if we do go with, none of this is like set in stone, and we'll probably be changing things around as we get better at it and learn more about how we want to do it. But as of right now,
if the podcast gets 1 million views for Star Wars, it might do more than
maybe
one every
2
weeks.
You know what I mean? If it gets none, we'll stop Blind Wave. I'm mad.
Stop everything.
We'll see.
But right now, it'd be like a once a month thing.
Yeah, my big plan for it right now is that we'll have it on Twitch Live. We'll be able to take in questions. Like the bits and all that kind of stuff, when people do bits and questions and whatever else, be able to take those in, hopefully kind of in groupings as we alter through topics and stuff too. So if you join us live, we'll be able to kind of talk with you guys and answer some of your questions and thoughts, kind of like we do Q&As a little bit, but then also we'll be going through our regular conversation of whatever the topic may be.
Absolutely.